Welcome to the Chief of Cybersecurity podcast, where we discuss relevant information concerning the cybersecurity workforce, business development, and best practices, made possible by CISSP. Learn more at CISSP.net. And for a list of authorized publications, visit DewayneHart.com. And now, here's your host, Dewayne Hart.
Hello there, everyone. Well, I'm back again to help you channel the cybersecurity landscape. You know, about a week ago, I was doing my speaker's sizzle, and I was trying to think of some of the things that I need to talk about. And the word cybersecurity landscape came up. And, you know, then I start to engage into the definition of cyber talk. And then as I began to have my discussion, I kind of transitioned over to workforce development. And then as I began to talk, especially about workforce development, one of the areas that came up was that individual has to focus on education, certifications, and also their experience. And so one of the things that I've always gave thought into when I'm talking about workforce modernization is that we all have to transition ourselves into a place where we work beyond certifications, you know, like teamwork, motivation, and learning how to work as a group. But certifications are very important. And I remember when I first started the industry, my first certification was the Security Plus, like many people. I was happy when I got this certification, you know, because I left the testing center and I was in my car and I almost ran the red light. And I was texting all my friends and I was telling everyone that I passed the certification because that was, you know, the first certification that I have taken. And then I moved on and actually took some Microsoft certifications. But the main certification that really kind of opened my eyes up for cybersecurity was the CISSP. Some of the seasoned professionals that were studying cybersecurity back in probably the area of 2010 through 2013, they were heavily engaged with Sean Harris and logical security because she was like the mother of the CISSP training. And I remember I went through all of her videos. And one of the things that I did was I had took the videos and I scripted the audio off of it. And as I was taking these long distance trips, I was listening to Sean Harris for 4 hours, nothing but CISSP information. And that was the only thing that was going through my brain cells for 4 hours. And you imagine when I'm driving back on the highway, there's another 4 hours of just hearing Sean Harris. And it helped me out so that I could pass the CISSP. But likewise, there are some people now that are studying for the CISSP and other certifications. So I want you to stay close with me today because I'm going to share some secret tips to help you master IT certifications. So as I have transitioned through the IT industry, I also have a YouTube channel, and I commonly look at other videos out on YouTube. And there's a lot of conversations about how to take a certification test. There's some free information on how to pass the certification test, and then there's some free training as well. And I believe people do commonly try to engage into that information. But what I noticed the most was that there was never a strong conversation on how to master IT certifications. So what I wanted to do was to take the time out to share that information with you because there are some ways that you can master these certification because the end state is to pass the test. This is what everyone wants to do. So let's get right into this podcast so I can carry you down this journey of the secret tips to master IT certifications. So the first one off the top of the list is boot camp classes. So I remember the first boot camp class I had taken. It was a virtual class, and the instructor spent 75% of the time reading off the PowerPoint slides. Did I learn anything? No. Did he ever ask the class, did it have any questions? No. What was my thought of the course when I left it? I could have sat at home and studied by myself, and that's exactly what I did afterwards. So boot camp classes are great. Here's the way you master your IT certification. Study, study, and study, and study. And then take the boot camp course. Don't say, I want to engage into cybersecurity, and you take the boot camp course, because the boot camp course is pretty much designed to brush up everything for you prior to you taking a test. So if you have never studied for a certification before and you think that you can take a 5-day course and pass it, well, by all means do it, but it's going to be a challenge. Now, it's just the way I feel about that. So that's why you have to either do some studying prior to the 5-day course, or if you're a seasoned professional and you've been in this industry for a while, well, you're probably one of the ones that can just register for the test, take it, and have a high probability of passing the test. But for new people that are freshly starting the industry off, you want to do some training first on your own. All right. Like you want to go through and do some reading, and then go take a boot camp course, because a boot camp class is a fast-paced course for like 5 days. And there are some things that you may not get while you are pretty much in the classroom, so it becomes hard. The next phase is your study material. Here's kind of the way I look at the study material, that it has to be a mix of all sources. You can have videos. You can have official publications. You can take notes. You can even go to like different type of maybe the cybersecurity online webinars and a couple of things that you have. And I'm going to throw this one in there with you as well, is that the cybersecurity mindset. Because what the cybersecurity mindset does is take the traditional information that you have from the certification, expand it so that you can understand how to put the cybersecurity picture together. Because there are some things in the cybersecurity mindset that you can use for your certifications, but you have to use your official study material and also add the cybersecurity mindset into your official study material. And if you do both of those, then you'll definitely come out on top, because one is that you're going to master your certification test and pass it. 2 is you're going to learn how to roadmap cybersecurity. And that's where the cybersecurity mindset comes in, because it takes all that information that you have on your certification tests and structure it in a format so that you can see how cybersecurity operates. One of the other things is that you can create your own study notes, because the certification test is no different than trying to study for a test that you had in high school. Because when we were in high school, we were taking notes, and we were writing like little small notes as well too, and on these stickies, and we'll put them all over our notepad and so forth. So that's pretty good as well too. There are many strategies to studying for a test. People have approached the testing in so many different methods and learn. Whatever method that you have for learning, please implement the same method into your certification training. So as you can see here, there are a multitude of resources that are out there and also that are available to you. Okay, scheduling your training. So let's just imagine that you work 40 hours a week. And let's just imagine that you really don't have but 7 hours a day to yourself, because you get up early in the morning and you have to go through traffic, and also too, you got to go to work. Here's kind of one of the way I look at it. If you can get the audio files and you can put them on an iPod or probably on your phone, and if you can listen to it while you're riding, you can do well, because there's a lot of people that spend like 2 hours a day traveling through traffic. Imagine if you could listen to information for your certification test for 2 hours. If you live in cities like New York, Atlanta, or like DC, there are traffic problems. Perfect cities to have audio on. One of the other things that you can do as well too is that if you have coworkers, family members, or friends, and if they're riding with you and both of y'all are studying for a certification, that's the perfect time to have a conversation, especially about the study material. And you can share information. Even so, at lunch, you can do it with a person. So as you see here, there is a possibility of you studying for 3 hours a day. 1 hour it takes you to get to work. You have a 1 hour for lunch, and that same hour that you leave a job, heading back home. And then on the weekends, you could probably pick up your notes, because if you listen to audio files, then it'll do you well. Now, also, too, you can have some videos, because you can go to YouTube and you can bring up some videos, and you can take those videos and pretty much you can play them on your phone while you are driving. Because half of the time, you probably don't need to look at the video. All you need to do is to have the audio. One of the other things you can do as well, too, is podcasting. Listen to some podcasts. There are a multitude of podcasts on the planet that you can learn about cybersecurity. And if you're listening to this podcast now, guess what? It's part of your study, because I'm telling you how to study for your certification test. Podcasts are very important. If you have been out to my YouTube channel, there's about 85 or 90 podcasts out there, and also too some live streams that you can use to understand cybersecurity. For some of the entry-level people, there are some other training methods that are free that you can probably put on your tablet, that you can put on your iPhone, and you can use that for studying. But I remember when I was studying for one certification, I had downloaded some audio files, and I put them on my tablet. Then I also too had some audio, some documents that I downloaded as well too, some PDF files. So I was able to use both. So when I was flying to different cities, then I could use my tablet, so I could pull it up and I could listen to the audio files, and I could go through the PDF files just for that 1.5 hour of flight. I was able to study. So one of the things too I'm going to tell you is that part of mastering your cybersecurity skills is that you're going to get tired, and that's going to be a day when you say that I don't know which certification that I want to pursue, because your overall objective is to find out a certification that actually works for you. One of the things I've always said is that nothing comes in a square box. So when you're trying to work on your skill sets and then you identify the certifications that matches your skill sets, you're going to have to develop your own study plan, what actually works for you. All right. Don't just go by the industry standard, but you identify something that's going to work for you. One of the other things you can do is for group studying. Group studying is very important because there are people on the planet that are trying to study just like you. These people are taking time out to figure out how to answer questions. If you go to Facebook, there are some groups out there, and and I'm not going to call the names of the groups, but if you do a research on like IT study groups or like IT groups, you're going to find a list of people that are just studying and learning hacking. People are learning different aspects of cybersecurity. If you join these groups and post information, maybe on a question you saw, someone would give you an answer. It's just that easy. This is the part of social media that I like the most, because 50 years ago, when possibly wanted something like this to happen, we were probably in a classroom somewhere. But now we have digital systems where we can log on to social media platforms and we can ask questions and we can get answers, because there are a multitude of people that are trying to do the same thing that you're trying to do. Some of the technologies that you can use for group studying is Microsoft Teams, Zoom, right? You can have webinars. These platforms are openly available because you can share information from your study guides. You can share questions that you're probably confused about. And someone can scope you through the answer, because if you pose a question, and let's say, for instance, there's like 11 or 12 people that are in the study session, somebody has an answer, because 3 or 4 people can come up with one piece of the answer. Somebody else come up with another piece of the answer. That's an option as well. But trust me, you're going to get the question answered. Chat services are very important too, especially I think that Facebook has some chat services that you can use where you set up a group, but under those groups, there are different little chat windows that you can create, maybe for certain subjects like the CISSP, Chapter 1 or something like that. One of the things I want to bring up is that when I was in the military and I was learning to be a leadership facilitator, one of the training pipelines that I had to go through was something called a master training specialist. So I briefly share that with everyone. What a master training specialist does is that person has to become the guru of training for the Navy. So you're given a series of tasks, and you have 18 months to complete the certification. Now, it's called a qualification because it's in the military. It's called a qualification. So like part of that qualification was that you would be given a task where someone would tell you to identify how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? So that's a series of steps to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And as I identified through my training, there's about 13 steps to go make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? Because, you got to take one piece of bread and put the left side, one to the right side. The other step is, like you have to pick up your knife and you got to put your knife or your spoon inside of the peanut butter. You got to carry it to your sandwich and you got to put all of this on your plate. So as you can see, there's a lot of steps to just doing one task. What I also learned in my master training specialist pipeline was that there's a question strategy for like every question that is thrown at you. At least 2 of those questions are wrong. This is a major secret tip for you here. At least 2 questions are wrong. If you were to go through your pipeline now and look at the CISSP, and if you pick any question out, it is 100% certain that 2 of those questions do not make sense. They don't even match the answers at all. So what I decided to do was to take that same information and transition that over to one of my other publications, which is the CISSP study guide. When I wrote the CISSP study guide, one of the things that I did was that I focused on knowledge, comprehension, and application. That's a three-legged principle that you can use to answer any questions. If you go to my website, www.DewayneHart.com, and go to the link where it states books and go to the training for the CISSP, I have a major write-up on this topic. And what it does is that it teaches you how to use knowledge, comprehension, and application as a source to answer questions. Because every question has a knowledge piece. The knowledge is telling you exactly what the question wants. Now, the comprehension is you going in and interpreting everything that is being said to you. But then the last stage is you identify how does each question and answers apply to each other. Let's just say, for instance, if you look at the question and let's say you see answer A, how does that apply to the question? And it may not apply to the question. And it may be one of the throw-offs, right? So like I stated before, at least there are two answers that don't make sense in every answer category. So when you just remember that, you would do well. Last thing I want to tell you is some people like to change answers on these tests. I've been told not to change my answers. I also been told that if I was unsure, I just don't answer the question. And I've seen people that do that. Now, what's your probability of getting the question right? Here goes the way I look at it. If you have found two answers on that test that seem so close, now what you have to do is to go back and you have to identify why is one right and why is one wrong. And usually it's because of something that is written down in the question. Because the question can ask you something as simple as what is the formula for risk management that you can use the most, or like which portion of this that it actually applies. Well, listen, the formula for risk is equal threats times vulnerabilities. So when you look at your answers, if neither answer has anything about threats and vulnerabilities, then you can scratch that off because that was in the question. See, like those are the things that you have to identify when you go take these IT certification tests. As I said before, there are two that do not make sense. Always going to be two that do not make sense. So what I just did today is giving you some secret tips to master your IT certifications. I really want you to stay focused. Go to the sources that I spoke about on my www.DewayneHart.com sources. If you're studying for the Security Plus or any of the other certifications, my official study guide on the CISSP is really good because you can use that to study for your Security Plus as well. Because I had a student last year that actually went through the guide and just read through the guide for like her first time. And then she went and took the Security Plus the first time and passed it. Now, I don't know from what she told me was that it was easy to interpret things because, the guide has answers, very, very detailed answers, and it has very, very detailed explanations as well, too. And those explanations are sometimes like reading a book. So you get both. So you get the book and also, too, you get the explanation so it can help you study. One of the things you can do is go and take the CISSP first if you think you're brave enough, because if you get past the CISSP, then you probably would prepare yourself for the rest of the certification. I've known people that take the something like a Microsoft cert, the Certified Ethical Hacker, and a couple of SANS cert, then they go take the CISSP and pass it because the CISSP information is relatable to all those certs. Then I've known people that just go take the CISSP and then fall back and to take those certification. But that depends on you and where you are, where you feel comfortable. There's no right or wrong way. But I can tell you that if you have the CISSP, you're probably going to be a little bit more marketable if you get that certification. So that's just something, to keep in mind because it's a hard certification. When I took it, it was for 6 hours and there was 250 questions. All right. So as you can see here today, you have learned how to master your IT certifications. When you learn how to master your IT certifications, this is when you can pass those certifications and going back and looking at your cybersecurity skill sets that you have, you can grow those skill sets. So that's very important. So what I want each of my listeners to do is to just remember that you are only as safe as your mindset. So until next time, I want everybody to stay cyber safe, and I will see you on LinkedIn, YouTube, and everywhere else.
You've been listening to the Chief of Cybersecurity podcast, where you have gained relevant knowledge to enhance your cybersecurity mindset. Be sure to visit DewayneHart.com to learn more about authored publications, show notes, and discover more information concerning cybersecurity.